Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to this April edition of Vivian and my conversation, live talk here on LinkedIn. And yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends on where you'll be watching this in the time frame that you're in. And I'm Mary Jane Roy, owner of Creating Waves. And I love to talk about a lot of topics. Uh, Stress, hardiness, resilience, emotional agility, but also very close to my heart are topics around DEI. So I'm going to turn over to Vivian. She'll introduce herself and we'll get started with the conversation we're going to have this month. Is Part of it is on intersectionality, and part of it is on the various dimensions of diversity. So let's dive in, Vivian.
Yeah, my name is Vivian Acquah. I am the co-host of this conversation of Go2Thrive, and I'm a DEI consultant, DEI advocate, however you call me. I support organizations with empowering them in creating the amazing DEI initiatives. The way that I go around it is I use a lot of cooking terminology or a lot of food terminology, and also I believe in nudging people to move the needle in their own tempo. I know that some of my fellow advocates or other people don't believe that, but I believe in this personal change that we are asking of a lot of people. We cannot make that change happen within 21 days. It needs more time for it to be settled. So it needs more time to marinate, and that's the way that I approach it. And I'm really excited to have this conversation today when we are going to talk about more than only race or gender, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to say to everybody that Vivian does make, even though I haven't tasted it yet, I know she makes an awesome carrot cake. So I've
I
told her my
received the hint.
preferences.
I received the hint.
Not the first hint I've given her, by the way. That's not the first one.
Point noted. Point noted.
Yeah. So I guess maybe Vivian, if I can kick off,
Yeah,
because
definitely,
until a
definitely.
few minutes before we started, even this call this morning for us, Vivian and I are both here in the Netherlands. Um, it, I thought I had it pegged as to what intersectionality is, what it means.
Mhm.
I'd heard the term first back in 2020 with the Amplify DEI summit.
Yeah.
One of the speakers, at least one of the speakers who I heard had talked about it. I went online, did a little bit of Googling, but I didn't really pay that much attention to it. And then still, even with the research I did this past week into the topic, I thought I had it pegged, and I didn't.
Yeah.
So, can you give the audience the real definition of
For the real
intersectionality?
definition, I need to look it
No,
up
but what
because
how but paraphrase it.
yeah,
Paraphrase it. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
So intersectionality was coined. This term was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, and Kimberly Crenshaw is an advocate, or she's a lawyer who was looking at the inequalities of what happening in courtrooms where when it comes to inequality, when it comes to gender discrimination, women discrimination, there were a lot of things that were looked upon, and also white women were being favored and were giving the benefit of the doubt, and they won a lot of cases. But when it comes to Black women, they lost a lot of cases. And then she realized it's not only about being a woman, but it's also about being a Black woman. And that's where the term intersectionality has been coined. It was connected to race and ethnicity. And then from there on, it was developed into the different intersectionalities that we have. So to clarify the definition, the different identities that the individual has, that makes us intersectional. So to bring it back to myself, I'm a Black woman. I identify
that's
myself
two.
as a, sorry,
That's two.
that's
Uh,
two. I'm Black and a woman. I identify myself as a cisgender. I am living together with my partner, and I am living in a Western country. And there's
Yeah.
so much
So
more.
and this is how this all interconnects.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I mean,
definitely connected.
for me, I could say, I mean, I'm a white woman,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I'm older, from an
Yeah.
older generation. So we also have the ageism factor that often creeps in
Yeah.
to not, and I do say often, but it doesn't just creep in. It's sometimes really blatant.
Yeah.
And there it would end for me. I'm married with a Dutchman.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here in a country that is Western. It's very similar to the country I grew up in, which, by the way, is Canada.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So there would be only two boxes that I check, really, right?
Well, there are more boxes, and we can tap into that when we show
Okay.
the diversity wheel. But to give you the dry definition of intersectionality, I'll read it out loud. So the
Well,
concept
and
of, yeah,
oh, before you do that,
yeah,
but again, I think what was really striking for me this
mm-hmm,
morning in our conversation
yeah.
was that it's about the individual. It's not about a group of people. It's
No,
about the
it's
individual.
about
Yeah,
me, and it's about you, and it's
yeah.
about uh, what's behind what you see.
Hmm.
Because there's a lot that you don't know, what you don't see, that can cause an inequality within the workplace or wherever space that people are. And that's something also that it's important that people know more about it, that we cannot fit a person in just one box.
And it's also at some level, then we can also connect with each other, though, through
True,
this.
true, true,
Yeah, because
true,
if we can find the common denominators that bind us,
true.
then yeah, okay.
You said
Go ahead and read.
you mentioned an important thing, that if we can find.
Yeah,
Normally, most of the times people don't take the time and the space and the energy to even have that conversation with each other, where are we connecting with each other, right?
yeah.
I've known Mary Jane for quite a while now, and you approached me saying, what do you do? And ever since then we are like, sisters, walking around like sisters. But
She
you
calls
approach
me
me.
her sister.
You are my sister from another mother and another father. You are my sister. No, but our connection is genuine, right? We love talking about employee sustainability, because you talk about resilience. Approached employee sustainability from another perspective. We also believe in advocating against exclusion, right? You do it for predominantly for the age diversity, and I do it for the general diversity and the inequality. These are the things that we can talk about. But if we don't sit down and have that conversation, or at least connect with each other on different levels, right? Connect with each
Mhm.
other. Like, I can ask you in a simple way, what do you love? What are the foods you like? What are the countries did you love to travel? So let's go beyond asking where do you work or what school did you do, because that also creates a barrier. And if I didn't go to the same league as yours, or if I didn't go to the same education or didn't have the same education as yours, that can also create a barrier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if we look for the common denominators instead of the differentiators,
Yeah.
then you're going to make that connection a lot more,
True.
a
But
lot, a lot
give
easier. Yeah,
yourself the space and the time and the energy to find out, to be curious. All
yeah,
we are asking is boost your curiosity when you don't know something about the other, and prevent and do your best to mitigate any assumption that you might have of the other, because the other person might surprise you.
yeah. It's something that I've in the last few years that I've really focused on. Even
Mm-hmm.
set it as a yearly goal for myself. Is
Yeah.
be curious, be
Yeah.
curious,
Yeah.
and it's not just about. For me, the part of that is learning and
Mm-hmm.
developing and growing,
Yeah.
but it is also be curious about the person that you're with and
Yeah.
about what they may be struggling with, challenged with, etc. And
Yeah.
that you'll get into much more intimate conversations
Yeah.
with someone by focusing on those kinds of things rather than what do you do,
Yeah. And
and
also the way that your tone of voice is very essential when you approach curiosity, or when you activate curiosity, right?
true,
Because
yes,
sometimes a conversation can really feel inauthentic, and I can shut down. You're not getting a lot of answers out of me, because I can you have an energy that doesn't make me feel like, okay, I can be safe. I feel safe around you, right? So that's also really honest. So when you are asking questions, make sure that you share with the person why you're asking questions. You really want to know, to get to know them better. It's helpful. But also be genuine. Don't ask questions just for the clickbait, or don't ask the questions so that you can hurt somebody else.
Well said. I
Yeah.
won't add anything to that. Do you want to go ahead and read the definition that you
Yeah.
found? Yeah.
So the definition of intersectionality is the concept of intersectionality describes the way in which systems of inequality based on gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, class, or other forms of discrimination intersect to create a unique dynamic ethic. So when we look, and I'm going to bring up the diversity wheel, when we look at the different dimensions of the things, the identities, or also the let's say the ingredients that makes a person the person, right? So when you look at age, when you look at gender, when you look at race, I can definitely check a few boxes here and there, but also it says a lot about somebody, right? And in each box there can be an inequality present, or more multiple inequalities present. Also the way I learn, I am allergic to lectures. I'm more of I love visual storytelling. I love it when people accompany their stories with a visual. That's also one of the reasons why I use a lot of images when I'm sharing stories. And when reading a book, I listen to audiobooks accompanied with reading a book because I have dyslexia, and it makes me, it used to, before there was an audiobook, I really had to catch up and really had to do my best to go the extra mile. But now that I have audiobooks and I have a lot of tools, Mary Jane knows this about me, I'm the tool person. I have a lot of tools to go around the multiple wording, because sometimes the wording can be like a whole soup. And the way that I use my tools is to prevent, the soup phase from happening so that I can catch up with people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, if if we would keep these topics in mind
Mm-hmm.
when we're meeting somebody for the first time, like the
Yeah.
exercise we did yesterday,
Yeah.
um, where
Find out
we
three
were
things about somebody without asking
that you
them
don't
about their
know,
work, and also
or about their
asking them
education.
about their education.
Yeah, yeah. And and of course, the person I was talking to, we turned around afterwards and said we made it too difficult for ourselves, but uh, we only came up with two. We weren't the
Yeah.
only ones that had only come up with two.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it we kind of get stuck in ways of thinking. And
True.
what I
True.
love about this visual is that it brings out all the different elements
Mm-hmm.
that encompass a person,
Yeah.
or can encompass. I
Yeah.
mean, in my case, I've got the military experience,
Mm-hmm.
as well, which
Mm-hmm.
some people will and won't know about me. Um,
Yes, he's
and
a real drill soldier. Because that's the assumption. No, because when you say military,
yeah,
immediately the idea of, "Ooh, you're strict." But are you that strict? No, I'm
no,
just kidding. She's not
no,
strict at all.
no,
But
no,
when you
no,
say
no.
military, I see a drill sergeant standing next to me, and seeing you being the drill sergeant, right? And that's already an assumption that I'm making in my head,
Yeah.
and that
No,
can be
that's
easily made by
and
other people.
I did do some of that in basic training, by the way.
What?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. But but really, but again, I wouldn't think to ask someone about their military experience. And
Mm,
somebody mentioned it yesterday too at the event we were at, and
yeah,
that he had done military service
yeah.
here. And I wouldn't. We had talked for half an hour before the event started. We were early, and
Hmm.
I mean, who thinks of asking somebody, or
No,
thinking that you have something in common?
and it's also, I think it also has to do with a different generation, because within your generation and in so many in many countries, it was mandatory to do something, right? To do something with the
Yeah, it
military.
wasn't for us,
Yeah,
but yeah, it was here for
yeah,
many years. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
now it
No,
isn't
it's
mandatory, right? So when you're asking that question to me, like, no, I don't have
no,
any.
I would never.
Yeah,
But we were of the same generation, the person I
yeah,
was talking to. So it could have been, because I
yeah,
do know that there was military service here, mandatory,
yeah,
in the Netherlands. Yeah, and
yeah,
interesting. I mean, but
yeah,
it wouldn't have cropped up in my mind at all.
yeah.
Maybe because it's pretty far back in my decades. But yeah, but this is a wheel that you can use, I think. And looking at the equity at work. So there
Mm-hmm,
must be from. It was an article on LinkedIn that I
mm-hmm.
found. I came across this. Uh, but yeah, people take this to heart
Yeah,
and maybe even take a picture of it or something and have it on your phone that you can refresh your mind if you're into a networking event and start to find or with your colleagues uh,
yeah.
different components, different dimensions is a better word, as it says here. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
because the article, it started with, let's look something like looking beyond gender and race, right?
erase. Yeah.
When I'm being approached or some of my fellow advocates are being approached, the majority of the time, because also in Europe, there is a lot of focus on gender diversity, right? So
Mhm.
it's a no-brainer to look into that aspect. But I also want to encourage those in power, those who can whisper some kind words with those in power in their ear, is look upon the other things that is missing, right? Because your company doesn't only exist from men, women, and those who identify themselves as different, right? There are other identities that also need support, right? That also need support.
Age,
So,
age.
yeah,
This is a
it's a silent diversity level, right? Yeah,
yeah. I call it the forgotten child
yeah.
of DEI strategies.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one that tends to be left behind,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and yet is really significant. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to go beyond, and even as one of the participants yesterday in the event mentioned also about. Um, Digital inclusion for those
Yeah.
who are sight impaired or
Yeah.
uh, what there's also a real lack I find in the Netherlands with real wheelchair access
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
all of these things. There's so much more than just the gender and race issue, ethnicity issues, and we need to be aware
Yeah.
of yes
And that's why I love that the virtual reality tool that we're using is creating more awareness, but also it gives people the opportunity to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes because you don't know what you don't know, right?
yes,
And
yes.
I'm not going to tell your story because not everybody can consume a story the way that I do. Like if somebody's telling me a story, I already am painting a movie in my head. Not
Hmm.
everybody is like that. And we want to be able to give people different styles of communication, styles of learning. I also tapped into the two things on the wheel where it says learning style. Not everybody
Hmm.
learns the same. And communication style. Not everybody communicates the same. So whether some person would rather have an email, some person would rather do a voicemail or do an audio or do a movie. And some people communicate in a different way or would rather have a face-to-face conversation. So what's your communication style?
And I've read somewhere recently, and I thought it was actually quite a good idea. But you have your own uh, manual of operation, let's say
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
if
Personal
you
user manual. Yeah,
personal user manual.
yeah,
And I thought, what a great idea,
yeah, yeah,
that you just clarify for people so they know automatically, what they
yeah,
need to do, and
yeah,
you have it for each other. I mean, you
yeah,
know theirs and they know yours.
yeah,
I don't know. There's something. Yeah, I like that idea. And again, it goes back to being curious. I've got to say it
it's
again.
curious, but
Ask,
sometimes
ask.
not everybody feels comfortable in asking the questions, and whatever reason there may be, it may be, shyness, whatever reason. I sometimes provide the training of creating a personal user manual, or how I would say, like sharing your recipe. My recipe consists definitely a lot of the Ghanaian spices, and that's something that that's a way for me to connect with somebody else. What is it that they want to know about Ghana? What is it that they want to know about me? And on the other hand, I also consist of being a nerd, and therefore I add Star Wars in it, and I add the tech part in it, because that's me. That's the creative part of me. And the moment that I'm not saying that you should disclose all your ingredients, but at least the ingredients that are essential for you to be able to collaborate with people.
Yeah, exactly. It is about working better together.
Yeah,
So, why not make it easy on each other and do something like this? So, going back to let's touch again on the VR experience. I think it's really important that people have a better understanding of what the VR experience is like.
Yeah.
And if you can reach out to Vivian and her partner Anita, who are doing this. My experience as a facilitator in these sessions, it is so impactful. It is so impactful. So maybe describe a bit, Vivian, for the audience.
I would say that using the VR tool has made it easier for people to really understand that the coat that they are wearing does not fit me, right? A lot of people say, if I can do it, you can do it. But you don't know what my barriers were in the past or now, what I'm facing now as a Black woman. And for you to be able to comprehend just a teeny bit, right? Just maybe 0.00001%. And to see what exclusion does to you as an individual, to see what exclusion does to you within a group, but also to see what exclusion can do within an organization. The moment that you can sense it, can feel it, that's when I see a lot of people being activated and being compelled to, I need to do something because I confronted myself with my own bias, and this is not the way that I want to be perceived. We include good intention, the way good intention is perceived in the wrong way, but also we include a way, I'm talking about a sixth sense, right? Because to me, to be able to describe VR, you have to try it. So I'm challenging everybody. If you want to know more, challenge your managers, challenge the decision makers, people in power, to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, right? Somebody else's shoes, because I have a video in my future section, and in Dutch it's bijdrage. When you look at my future section, there is a snippet to a video there, and you can get a sample or a taste of what it means to be the other person. Because the moment that we all go through this VR experience, that's when I also see change happening. That's when I also see managers, leaders really making an effort to do more than their best to amplify diversity, equity, and inclusion within their organization.
First of all, I think what's important for everyone, because if you've had an experience with VR, you often think of the gaming, it as a gaming tool,
true.
and avatars, avatars.
It's not a cartoon.
No,
real person, real people.
Well, I mean, actors say but you're immersed in whatever situation it is, and there's a variety of situations. And when you have those glasses on, as Vivian mentioned earlier, you literally are standing in the shoes of the person who is being discriminated against. And that gives well, I've used the word often with people. I used it yesterday describing it. It's visceral, it was for me in any case. So to me, it's a tool for really helping to mitigate unconscious biases. And we know with the research out there, there's a lot of criticism that workshops and trainings for unconscious bias are not working. Because it stays too much theoretical. I think it stays too much in the head space and not the heart space.
And we need to activate people within their heart. We need to tap into their intrinsic motivation. So the immersive part, that's something that a lot of people forget. Your brain thinks that this is happening to you, or this is happening to a loved one. And the way that your brain processes it, I mean, there are still people. I recently talked to somebody who did the training last year, recently became a mom, and she says, it's still with me. It's still stuck with me. I want to do more. I want to advocate. I want to do more because this is what's needed. And also Harvard Business Review, different studies done by Harvard, they are saying that a lot of unconscious bias training or a lot of DEI training are stopping where they should be starting. And that's also one of the reasons why before I do any work, most of the work that I do in collaboration with Anita and also with Mary Jane is when we do a long-term commitment, it's important that people wear the VR glasses so that they understand and they can literally feel how it means or what it feels like, but also it lowers the barrier of having that deeper conversation. It mitigates all the what ifs, or this is not relevant, this is not for me, this is not for us, this is not happening. It is happening, but you're not experiencing it.
Yeah, and this brings it home.
Yeah.
And another tool that I think is really significant, and one that you've just recently brought out, are the DEI cards, Vivian. And I'd really like the audience to know more about that as well. So
during the work that I've done from my previous company, Viva La Vive, but also with Amplify DEI, I noticed that after I've done the training and I give them a few exercises, after a few weeks or a few months, they get stuck. And I also understand that, hire me back and forth. I mean, I would love to, but it's not sustainable. And sometimes the departments don't have the budget to be able to hire me. So therefore, I created something that is very tangible. I created little nuggets where people can use them. These are coaching cards plus a course. So it's not only you're getting coaching cards and that's it. No, you're getting access to a course. So for instance, what this card is saying is, what could you say if you could talk to an external stakeholder about DEI? And it goes to a certain little bite-sized movie, and all the movies are less than 5 minutes. Less than 5 minutes. I know you're busy. You don't have the time to go to all the lengthy stuff. So why not create something that is bite-sized, that is usable for the moment that you're dealing for now, so that you can move the needle. I want you to be able to move the needle. So the cards contain different categories. I have them here on my table so that I can share it with you. The cards contain different categories where you have unaware. I hope that you can see. You have unaware, aware, action, and then you have the different intensities of mild, spicy, and then hot. Right, for everything. Yeah, that's a nod to me talking about food, but also these cards are really usable for ERGs, really good for team building, really good for your company to create their own DEI recipe or bring it back to the team. The team can create their own DEI recipe. Most of the times what I see companies do is they have their values when it comes to DEI, but a lot of people forget that there are subcultures within teams. And each subculture also need their own recipe based upon the main recipe, but they can tweak it. And then there's the individual person who also have their own recipe, and you can tweak it.
And what I love about it is it takes away, well, where do we start?
Yeah.
You pick a card that resonates, and you pose the question, you get the conversation started. And I think that's often what holds us back in the group dynamics is knowing where to start. And
knowing where to start, but also knowing, is it safe to have this conversation? That's also the reason why I connected it to a course, because I don't want people to tap into their trauma.
No,
Maybe
right.
it's
That
not
makes sense.
safe. Maybe it's not safe to talk about your trauma. And also, I want this conversation to be open, to be small, in small gatherings, so maximum 8 people together, and have that brave conversation, have that courageous conversation that is needed to move the needle. We cannot only talk about the happy diversity, we also need to make space about the hard topics, like talking about sexism, talking about racism, talking about discrimination, talking about inequality. Because if we don't address that, then the problem will be getting worse. And you'll be talking about the pink elephant the whole time. And it's tiptoeing around the room, growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually becoming a mammoth.
Yeah, again, if you don't have these conversations, you're not addressing the root of the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
That's really what it
Yeah.
comes down to. You're
Yeah.
chopping at the branches, but not
True.
not going at the root. And
True.
yeah, yeah.
Now this is a label of love, and again, partially inspired by Orlando. Orlando is the main inspiration why I came up with Amplify DEI, but also
Orlando is her son, just to
yes.
people.
I'm assuming that everybody knows Orlando. I think that everybody knows Orlando. Orlando is 9 at the moment right now, but when you look
You
at
never know where this is going in the world.
no, it's true. When you look at previous conversations from 2 years ago, of 1 year ago, you might see Orlando creeping in. As of now, he doesn't wanna. He's at the age where he's very aware of his brand, and he doesn't wanna. I have to ask him permission to make a picture.
Okay.
So looking back
Yeah.
to this conversation, beyond race and gender, right? So let's also look into the different dimensions, address it once per year or maybe a few times per year, but make sure that you address it, and also ask your employees what is it that they want to talk about. Start with that first, and then dive deeper so that you can pick and choose which topic that you want to learn.
Yeah, and I think also it's something I thought about yesterday during this DEI event that we both attended. You were on the panel.
Mm-hmm.
Doing nothing is also doing something.
Yeah,
Do you remember the
yeah,
article I wrote? So
yeah,
if
yeah,
if you do nothing, you are contributing
yeah,
to the problem. I'll call it a problem. It's a challenge, but in straight out facts, we have a lot of problems in the
yeah,
world,
yeah,
and a lot of them is. And I think also what Vivian, this is popping into my head, but it's also with how our brain works.
yeah,
The neuroscience behind all of this. Start educating yourself as to
mm-hmm.
why your brain is making a
Yeah,
fool of you
yeah,
so much, because
yeah,
this is something that I think we take so much for granted. We think
yeah,
that our thoughts are true, that we're not being biased. Absolutely nothing could be further from the truth. It's the way your
yeah.
brain operates, but
True,
if you're aware of it, you can do something about it.
true. And I also want to
Yeah.
bring up a few things, because within the US, there are some books are being banned, right?
Yes,
They
yes.
are they are impactful.
Pinocchio.
It's impactful for education, especially when it comes to DEI. So a book tip or a movie tip that I have for the audience that is listening or watching, look up The Hate You Give. See if you can buy the
The
book
hate,
or read
the
The
hate
Hate
you
You
give.
Give. Yeah, The Hate You
Okay, the
Give.
hate you give.
It's a book, and that has been created to a movie. But it's also, yeah, the movie and the book. It's, yeah, I'm getting goosebumps right now when I'm seeing it. But it's a really good movie, a good topic to have a conversation. And it's also important that if you want to do better, start with that, the thing that is unknown for you.
Mm.
So this is The Hate U Give. This is the movie.
Okay.
I think maybe it's on Netflix, or look at it if it's maybe on one of the streaming. I'm not sponsored by the streaming movies, so I cannot. I'm gonna mention Netflix, Amazon, Pride, all the other streaming. I'm not sponsored, but this movie, audiobook is for me an essential read if you want to do better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're heading to a wrap up.
Yeah. For me, the valuable lesson is what started before us having the conversation, that you don't know what you don't know. And it's very important to clarify if you're sharing a word that is unknown for you. Is it this? Do you mean this with that? Because there can be different understanding of intersectionality and also different understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the more we talk about the words that we don't know, the more we can create clarity, that we can create awareness. And I really liked the conversation that we had just before this session to clarify a few things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The light bulb went off for me. Yeah. The light bulb went on.
Yeah. On and off and on.
On, off, on. Yeah, Vivian, thank you so much. And thanks
thank you as
everybody
well.
who
Thank
tunes
you.
into this session. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll see
Until
you
next time.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.